Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Hidden Tales. Your support keeps the stories alive and the secrets unfolding. Ethan Lawson stepped into the Grand Hotel suite, the heavy door closing behind him with a soft, yet ominous click. The room was a testament to opulence. Chandeliers glimmered like suspended constellations, casting fractured light across the polished marble floors. A fire crackled warmly in the fireplace, sending flickers of gold dancing across the velvet furniture, while the scent of expensive cologne mixed subtly with the faint aroma of pine from a tastefully decorated Christmas tree in the corner. Outside, snow fell silently, blanketing the city in a hushed, sparkling white. Isabella Hart, standing near the floor-to-ceiling window, turned with a mischievous smile that could both enchant and manipulate. Her red silk gown hugged every curve, and her eyes gleamed with an intensity that made Ethan's chest tighten. "You like what I've done?" she asked, twirling a crystal glass of champagne in her hand, letting the light catch the bubbles. Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of excitement, yet deep within, a twinge of guilt gnawed at him. He told himself, as he had countless times, that this was just one night, a fleeting escape from responsibilities, and it didn't mean anything, yet the pit in his stomach refused to listen. He placed his briefcase on the console table, noticing the soft hum of a personalized playlist in the background and the faint clink of ice in a second glass on the marble bar. Isabella approached, her hand brushing against his arm, sending shivers down his spine. "Relax," she whispered, her voice sultry and commanding all at once. "Tonight is ours. Forget everything else." Ethan wanted to comply, to lose himself entirely in the moment, but his phone vibrated quietly in his jacket pocket. He glanced at it, a brief flicker of hesitation. Missed calls from Clara, notifications from his daughter Sophie, tiny reminders of the family waiting in another life, another reality that now felt painfully distant. Isabella noticed his distraction, narrowing her eyes with a playful, possessive glare. "You're thinking of them again," she said softly, almost accusingly. Ethan forced a laugh, raising his glass to meet hers. They clinked glasses, their laughter filling the suite, light and easy, yet hollow. The fire reflected in Ethan's eyes, warm and flickering, but behind the surface, a storm of regret and longing churned. He smiled outwardly, but inside, the luxury, the glamour, and even Isabella's intoxicating presence couldn't drown the emptiness that gnawed at his heart. Tonight, surrounded by wealth and temptation, Ethan realized that some voids no amount of indulgence could fill. Ethan's mind drifted as he sank into the plush velvet armchair, the laughter and clinking of champagne glasses around him fading into the background. He was no longer in the hotel suite, no longer with Isabella, but standing in the cozy living room of his home from a Christmas past. The warm glow of string lights reflected off handmade ornaments, each telling a story of a year gone by. The scent of freshly baked cookies, gingerbread, sugar, and cinnamon, wafted from the kitchen, wrapping the house in a comforting embrace that no luxury hotel could replicate. Clara, radiant in her simple holiday sweater, was kneeling beside Sophie, their 6-year-old daughter, helping her tie a delicate ribbon around a tiny gift. Sophie's laughter rang like a bell through the room as she hugged her mother, her tiny face flushed with excitement. Ethan remembered the gentle chaos of that morning, wrappings strewn across the floor, stockings brimming with small treasures, and the aroma of cinnamon rolls filling the air. Clara's eyes met his across the room, a soft, knowing smile that seemed to see straight into his heart, full of love, patience, and quiet understanding. The warmth in that glance was a stark contrast to the cold glimmer of chandeliers and polished marble he now found himself surrounded by. He could almost hear the soft hum of holiday songs in the background, the rhythmic tapping of Sophie's small fingers against the table as she eagerly unwrapped gifts. He remembered the joy of being together, the easy conversation, and the simple traditions that brought them closer each year. It wasn't wealth or glamour that made those moments magical, it was the shared laughter, the hugs, the silent promises made in loving glances, the small, sacred rituals of family. As the memory played, Ethan felt a pang of longing mixed with guilt. The contrast was undeniable, the artificial luxury and seduction of the hotel suite versus the genuine warmth and love of his home. He realized how deeply he missed those moments, how much he had taken Clara's unwavering love for granted. The image of his daughter's bright, innocent eyes haunted him. He could feel the tug of responsibility and love pulling at his heart, reminding him that no matter the temptation, some bonds were unbreakable, and some regrets were heavier than any indulgence. Isabella's presence in the suite was magnetic, impossible to ignore. She moved with calculated grace, every gesture designed to draw Ethan closer, every glance meant to unnerve him just enough to keep his attention fully hers. Her ambition was clear in the way she spoke, the way she measured his reactions, always seeking control. "You look tense," she murmured, circling him like a predator studying her prey. "You shouldn't let them rule your thoughts, Ethan. They don't belong in this room with us." Her words were soft but carried a weight that made his chest tighten. The subtle insinuation, that his family was replaceable, was a dangerous temptation. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against his arm in a touch that lingered too long. "Imagine a life without them," she whispered, her lips brushing his ear. "No responsibilities, no guilt. Just you and me, every day like tonight." Ethan's mind protested, a cascade of memories of Clara and Sophie flashing before his eyes, but the warmth of her body, the intoxicating perfume, and the thrill of the forbidden were powerful distractions. He wanted to resist, to turn away, but found himself drawn in nonetheless. Their intimacy was intertwined with tension. Isabella leaned against him, her voice teasing yet commanding. "You enjoy this, don't you?" she purred. Ethan's heart raced, torn between pleasure and conscience. I can't just think like that," he stammered, guilt slicing through the haze of desire. Isabella smiled knowingly, her eyes glinting with subtle triumph. "Oh, but you already do, Ethan. That's why you came here. Admit it, you want this, more than you admit to yourself." Despite the outward laughter and shared moments, Ethan felt the sharp pangs of self-reproach. He sensed she had a plan, a hidden agenda that he could not yet see, and the thought sent a chill through him. Isabella's manipulation was delicate yet potent. She didn't demand loyalty outright, but planted seeds of doubt, desire, and dependency. Every word, every touch, was carefully calculated to pull him away from the life he had promised to protect. Ethan's mind swirled with confusion, desire, and unease, caught in the tension between the thrill of indulgence and the crushing weight of guilt. Tonight, he was both enthralled and imprisoned, unable to fully escape the web she wove around him. Ethan's phone buzzed sharply against the marble counter, the vibration cutting through the warmth and music of the suite. Frowning, he picked it up, only to see an unknown number flashing on the screen. Hesitation clawed at him. "Who could it be?" he muttered under his breath, his heart already racing with a mix of dread and guilt. The call felt sudden, urgent, like a ripple threatening to break through the fragile bubble he had wrapped himself in for the night. "Ethan, it's urgent," the voice on the other end said, low and tight with seriousness. The single sentence hit him like a hammer. Isabella leaned closer, her hand resting possessively on his arm. "Ignore it. Don't let anyone ruin tonight," she said, her voice coaxing, almost seductive. Ethan swallowed, sweat prickling his palms, a tight knot forming in his chest. Every instinct told him to stay, to give in to the warmth and illusion of comfort, but his conscience screamed louder. He imagined Clara at home, probably calling, probably worried, and Sophie's small face flashing in his mind. The luxury around him felt suddenly cold and hollow. Finally, with a trembling hand, Ethan pressed the screen to end the call. I have to go," he stammered, voice tight with guilt. Isabella's eyes narrowed. "Now? Tonight? You can't leave me like this." Her tone was both hurt and possessive, a weapon dressed as seduction. But Ethan shook his head, heart pounding. Responsibility and fear outweighed desire. He gathered his coat, his briefcase, and without looking back, left the suite, the firelight behind him casting shadows that seemed to follow. The city outside was quiet, draped in a thick blanket of snow that reflected the pale glow of streetlights. Ethan drove through the silent streets, every turn and stoplight amplifying his growing anxiety. He imagined Clara and Sophie waiting at home, maybe frightened, maybe confused by his absence. As he neared his house, anticipation twisted into dread, and his grip on the steering wheel tightened until his knuckles whitened. Pulling up to the front door, he froze. A small, white note had been taped neatly to the center of the wooden door. The message was simple, terrifying in its brevity: "Don't look for us." Shock ripped through him like a physical blow. His mind raced. There were no signs of forced entry, nothing to suggest an abduction, only absence. He fumbled with the keys, his body trembling, and stepped inside. The house was eerily silent, the festive decorations untouched, the Christmas tree glowing softly amidst unwrapped gifts and abandoned stockings. Each room he searched deep in his panic. Sophie's small toys lay scattered but untouched, her drawings still pinned to the fridge. Clara's coat and scarf were gone, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. Ethan's breaths came in ragged gasps, guilt and fear colliding violently with anger and confusion. Tears burned behind his eyes, and for the first time, the weight of his choices pressed fully upon him. He sank to the floor near the fireplace, unable to process the emptiness around him, the message's stark warning echoing in his mind. Ethan's fingers shook as he dialed friends, family, anyone who might know where they were. Every unanswered call, every vague response tightened the grip of panic in his chest. Detective Harris, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, arrived within the hour, questioning Ethan carefully. "When was the last time you saw your wife and daughter?" the detective asked, pen poised over a notepad. Ethan recounted, stumbling through the story, the weight of guilt making his voice quiver. He realized, with growing horror, how much his affair had driven a wedge between him and the family he loved. Flashbacks of recent arguments with Clara returned unbidden. Minor disagreements had escalated, fueled not by malice but by Ethan's emotional distance, his obsession with work and now, his secret night with Isabella. Each memory stung sharply, a reminder of what he had taken for granted. Isabella's manipulations, once thrilling, now appeared sinister in hindsight. She had been attempting escape, but perhaps her presence, or even just his betrayal, had driven them away. Suspicion and desire intertwined, leaving Ethan both desperate and fearful, unsure of whom to trust. In the following days, Ethan combed the house and found subtle, almost taunting clues: a crumpled letter addressed vaguely to him, Sophie's small plush toy hidden under a couch cushion, a gift meant for Clara left conspicuously on the counter. Each discovery struck him with guilt, as if someone had orchestrated this disappearance to punish him, to make him feel every pang of abandonment he had caused. Text messages he had ignored, conversations he had brushed off, all replayed in his mind, highlighting his negligence. Detective Harris worked methodically, uncovering small but damning signs of premeditation. It was clear that this was no random disappearance. Someone had planned it carefully, exploiting Ethan's weaknesses and his infidelity. The detective's calm explanations only sharpened Ethan's self-recrimination. He could no longer deny his role in creating the circumstances that led to his family vanishing. Each passing hour was a mirror to his own mistakes, showing that indulgence, desire, and neglect had consequences far graver than he had imagined. When confrontation became inevitable, Ethan faced Isabella, his voice taut with anger and desperation. "Did you know? Did you have anything to do with this?" he demanded. Isabella's face remained inscrutable at first, then softened into a cold smirk. "You think I care about them?" she said, her voice low. "I never cared about them. I wanted you, and I wanted control. Nothing else." Ethan's chest tightened, pain and clarity colliding. All the lust, all the thrill, had been empty. He realized he truly loved Clara, that Isabella had been a distraction, a toxic temptation he could no longer allow to exist in his life. Ethan's resolve solidified. He vowed to find Clara and Sophie, to make amends, to fight for what truly mattered. He left the confrontation behind, feeling a strange mixture of fear, determination, and clarity. His journey was no longer about desire or indulgence, it was about redemption, about reclaiming the family he had nearly destroyed. The search that followed was frantic and relentless. Ethan retraced every memory, visiting parks they frequented, friends who might have shelter, and places where small, fleeting hints could be found. Encounters with strangers offered cryptic suggestions, half-answers that kept hope alive but never fully satisfied. Each step forced Ethan into introspection. He recalled promises broken, laughter unshared, moments sacrificed for ambition or desire. Hope and despair tangled in his chest, fear clawing at his resolve, yet he pressed forward, understanding that only confronting his failures could bring him closer to the reunion he desperately sought. Finally, in the quiet countryside, Ethan found them. Clara and Sophie sat in the modest cabin of a close friend, safe but wary. Sophie's eyes widened with recognition, hope flickering in her gaze. Clara's expression was guarded, the pain of separation evident, yet tempered by relief that they were unharmed. Ethan fell to his knees before them, tears streaming, voice shaking. "I'm so sorry. I've made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I'll do anything to make it right." The emotional exchange was raw, honest, and transformative. Isabella's absence underscored the reality that wealth and desire could never replace genuine love. Time passed, and slowly, trust and warmth returned. Ethan apologized fully, accepting the consequences of his actions. Family moments, small and tender, began to heal the wounds, the glow in Sophie's smile, Clara's cautious but genuine forgiveness. Ethan severed all ties with Isabella, understanding that some relationships were toxic illusions. The following Christmas, they celebrated quietly at home, snow falling softly outside, the warmth of love restored. Wealth and luxury no longer mattered, what endured was loyalty, love, and the choices that truly defined a family. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Hidden Tales. Your support helps us bring more gripping stories to life.